give an awesome welcome cheer for Pastor Barry.
Thank you. Excellent, great to see you. Why don't you take your seats? I don't know whether you noticed, but I went out and I changed my shirt. I looked at all of you and said, I'm overdressed, and so I just put a casual shirt on. Actually, a few weeks ago, in my church at Revive, which used to be Petersham Assembly of God, we're now renamed Revive, after 62 years, I wore a T-shirt for the first time in a church service. Now, that's how old-fashioned I am, so, yeah. Anyway, it's a little bit mutton done up as lamb, but anyway, it's, you know, they thought that would be a good look, and so when I looked at all you guys, I thought, oh, I think I'm in my own church again, you know, better put on something casual. Now, you were mentioning about the men being left behind and women and children. That actually happened in my family. When Russia, many, many decades ago, when they invaded Estonia, my family heritage, I was born here, but my family heritage is in Estonia. And the deal was that my grandfather, who I've never met, had to stay behind, and the wife and the children could escape. And so they never saw their father ever again. She never saw her husband again. I've never met my grandfather, and I don't even know when he died, how he died, or anything like that. So I truly understand the situation. You know, life can be very difficult at times. And so, yeah, very interesting. Now, I don't know whether you know the history of this church, and I don't know whether you know me, but I was actually in the room 30 years ago when Pastor Herman was appointed as the senior pastor of the Indonesian Fellowship. In your website, you have Pastor Tony Hallo, who was the senior pastor at the time. He appointed Pastor Herman as, you know, as the minister. I was in the room at that time. So I've been at that church for 62 years, you know, so I've never left. And so I was in the room, and just to let you know, Pastor Herman and a few of the board members were there, and they were talking about someone they wanted to bring from Indonesia to be the pastor, because they started as a Indonesian sort of church in Mascot, then they came and they became like an ethnic department of our church for a year under Pastor Mantiri. And so when they were there and they were sitting and they were talking about bringing someone from Indonesia, Pastor Tony Hallo, and I definitely believe it was in the spirit as we know with our history, he just looked at Pastor Herman and said, why are you bringing someone from over there? I believe that you are the man that should lead this church. And so Pastor Herman looked shocked, but he was a man of God. And he said, yep, okay, I'll do it. And he was a businessman, and so he gave all of that up and started the church, and so very, very exciting. So I love this church, and so I feel like I was there from the very beginning. And so it's just great to hear what you're doing here. I'm so glad to be able to come and visit this site and to hear the future of your church. So it's very, very exciting. And so building programs are sometimes messy things to go through, but boy, what you get at the end is brand new facilities and state-of-the-art stuff, and so it's going to be awesome, fantastic. When does this group, can I just ask, when does this group actually eat lunch? Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was on my way and I was a little bit early, and I thought, you know, I'm going to go to McDonald's and have a hot chocolate and look over my notes before I come here. And while I was on the way, I thought, hold on a second, when do I eat? And so I panicked, and I went to your McDonald's, and I had to have something to eat. I thought, I can't wait till 2 o'clock. I don't eat breakfast. I can't wait till I'm leaving. And so I have no idea what you guys do. And so that's got to be the smallest McDonald's I have ever seen in the world. You should be ashamed of your McDonald's. I mean, really, that's embarrassing. Okay, I'm just saying, the sign is the lowest sign I've ever seen. And I think maybe if the sign is low, that's because they're embarrassed of their building. And if the sign is high, come on in. So I went to your McDonald's, and it's like, there's no place inside. I didn't even know whether they had a toilet. Do they have a toilet? Okay, neither do I. And so I thought, what in the... You guys have to do better than that. Come on, you got to get a better McDonald's. Anyway, So, I noticed that your theme is giving. And can I just say, a lot of people are very uncomfortable about the word giving. When it comes to money, people get uncomfortable. Now, I'm not going to talk about money, but money is going to be part of what I talk about. Generosity and giving is more than just finance. It's giving of our time, giving of our resources, giving of, sharing the things that we've got. And just for those that are uncomfortable about giving, I got a joke. Let me start with a joke. Is that all right? It's a bad joke. It's a bad joke. 2 men were marooned on an island. Their boat that they were in sunk. They're on this little island. And one of the men is so worried and panicking and walking up and down this little island going, what are we going to do? How are we going to get rescued? What's going to happen? And the other person was just lying in the sand, just sunning themselves, just having a wonderful time. And he said, why aren't you worried? And he said, I don't need to be worried. He said, look, I'm a businessman. I earn $10,000 a week and I tithe on what I earn. And this month we're coming into our big annual giving appeal. He said, I'm not worried. My pastor will find me. So just watch out for your pastors during the giving time, all right? So, okay. So I don't know whether anyone here, don't put your hand up if you bought a lottery ticket to be in the 120. I don't want to know. Okay, pretend that you're spiritual while you're looking at me. But it was interesting because this was, I think, the second biggest lottery amount, $120 million. And so it was on the news. I think half of Australian adults were in the lottery. Okay, and so I was just in the car and just listening to the radio, and I was listening to them talk about how would you spend the $120 million. And it was interesting because nearly everyone said, I would share some with my family. And some even said, I think I would also give to a charity. And that was being encouraged. Oh, that's very generous of you. And it's like, well, is it really generosity when you give out of an abundance of what you've got? Isn't the true spirit of generosity when you don't have much and yet you're still willing to give and willing to share? So it's interesting. A lot of people are waiting till they're in a better position and then they will be generous. If I get a little bit more money, if I get a little bit more resource, if I get more time, if I get more of this, then I'm going to be generous. Well, that's not the spirit of generosity, giving out of your excess. And so I actually want to look at a situation, the exact opposite of winning 120 million. I want to talk about a situation, and again, I've already gone a little bit in history, but I want to go back in history to a man called Viktor Frankl. Has anyone heard that name? Anyway, he wrote a very famous book, and his book was called Man's Search for Meaning, and it was pretty high up in the US book charts when it was written. Now, what made this book interesting is Viktor Frankl was imprisoned. He was an Austrian psychiatrist, but he was also a Holocaust survivor. So the Holocaust, you remember the Nazis came in, rounded up Jews and gypsies and disabled people and everything, put them in concentration camps. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, in those camps. And he lost his father, his mother, his brother, and his pregnant wife in those camps. He survived. Now, he was a psychiatrist, and so he couldn't help but just watch the different people that were in the camp. That was his upbringing, to observe. And he noted different people that were in the camp. And when he came out, he wrote based on the things he was observing. And that's why the book Man's Search for Meaning was so important, because he found it was so important in the camp. For example, those concentration camps were the most horrible, dehumanizing places you could be. You didn't know if that hour you were going to be killed, whether just shot by a guard, exterminated, whatever. It was a horrible situation where some people tried to commit suicide. They would run into the electric fences. They just couldn't stand it anymore. And in that situation, he noticed that there were some people, a few of them, that would go around comforting others giving up their last piece of bread for others. And it's like, hold on a second, they've lost everything just as much as the next person. But he was noting that there were those that even though they were in the same predicament and they had lost everything and they were going through exactly the same thing, there was something in some people that were going around providing comfort and sharing whatever they had with others. And so he was noting this, and he wrote this: forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except one thing: the freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. That's amazing. And so he also wrote this about the people giving away the last piece of bread. He wrote, they may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing: the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And he noted these people that whatever was happening to them and was happening to all of them, there were some that were going, you can't dictate to me how I will treat this or how I will treat others, or you can't touch the attitudes that I choose to have in the midst of this. And so, you know, it was just, as he kept watching this and he could see others that were just giving up, you know, the fight for life, but he noticed that these that were reaching out to others, he noticed that there was something underlying. It was like there was a reason for them to continue and not to give up. It might have been a loved one was waiting for them, and so they were determined, I'm going to get out of this. Well, we know that not everyone did, but there was something in them saying, whatever's happening to me, I want to believe that when I get out, I will not be so affected by what's happening. I still want to be who I choose to be. And so whether it was a loved one, an unfinished work, some important personal goal, something made them continue in terrible circumstances. And Frankl wrote this: life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. And he noticed that those that lost meaning and purpose, they then began to just give up. And so he also said, without meaning, man turns to immediate pleasure. And how he noted this was cigarettes. They could get their hands on cigarettes, and cigarettes was like money. It could bribe the guards to get a little bit more soup or get a little bit more comfort or whatever. And he noticed that when men began to smoke their own cigarettes, that they had given up. They had lost purpose, they had lost meaning, and they were taking the last little bit of pleasure before they knew. And he said when you started smoking your own cigarettes, he knew you were going to die. And that's what Viktor Frankl noted. And so it's important that we have a sense of meaning in what we do. We're all going through similar circumstances. We're all going through COVID. We're all going through the concerns for Russia and Ukraine. We're all going through whatever our circumstances are, our jobs, our income, whatever. We've got our dreams. We've all got dreams. We've all got desires. But without a sense of meaning or a sense of purpose, without something bigger than our circumstances, we're going to end up just spending whatever we got just on ourselves. Because we go, well, you know, like for example, you're doing something amazing. You're trying to establish a church here. You're trying to establish a new building. That's going to take sacrifice or whatever. But without a sense of, look, what we're doing is for the kingdom of God. What we're doing, if you don't have a sense of meaning or purpose to it, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to use my money on myself. Yeah, that's true. It's my money. I'm going to use it on me. As I said, I'm not here to fundraise or anything like that. I'm here to talk about what's the spirit behind a generous person. I just want to explore it a little bit. What is it in someone that they're generous? You know, they're givers. What is it that they think or believe? You know, like what's going on down here that you can be in a concentration camp and give away your last piece of bread to someone else? What is going on at this deeper level to be someone like that. And once we sort of can explore that a little bit, I think then maybe we can be challenged and go, I need to start thinking like some of these people. Now, it says in Acts chapter 20, verse 35, it says, you should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than receive. How many people love getting presents? How many is your love language is gifts? Okay? Okay. For people that love getting presents, this just doesn't make sense. I mean, seriously, it's more blessed to give than receive. No, it's not. It's great to receive. Yet Jesus is going, no, no, no. When you operate on another level, you find a joy, a pleasure in giving even more than receiving. It says in Proverbs 11, 24 to 25, it says the world of, and this is the Message version, the world of the generous gets larger and larger. The world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. The one who blesses others is abundantly blessed. Those who help others are helped. And I think this is a really good verse as a summary of what's the type of thinking that's in a generous person. For example, this verse says, the belief of the generous giver is that they believe that as they bless others, that somehow they will be abundantly blessed themselves. It's kind of, intuitive. It doesn't make sense. I'm giving away, but I believe I will be richer as a result of it. And so the thinking of a generous person is just so very different. And the Bible encourages the right actions. And God sort of says, hey, listen, as you bless others, as you are giving of your resources, don't you worry, I am going to give of my resources to bless you. And so it's like a generous person lives a bigger life than their resources. It's like they can do something and be incredibly generous, just knowing that they won't be poorer because of it. And there's a belief, and we believe, the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God. And he says, and then all these other things, what you wear, what you'll eat, what you wear, eat, and drink, I think it is. Yeah. And it says, this will be added to you. And it's sort of like as we give ourselves to what's important to God, God gives himself to what's important to us. And I think a generous person trusts that and believes that. And so, one, they believe as they bless others, somehow they will be abundantly blessed. Also, it says that those who help others will also find help when they need it. And again, the giver that looks out for the needs of others is just confident that God is looking out for their needs. Now, I'm not saying be stupid and just give your money away and do foolish things. Not at all. I'm just saying there's times that God prompts us to give out of what we don't have, or, there are times that he prompts us, and it's in those times he says, listen, you trust me. I'll look after you. When you need help, I'll be there for you. And it's like, really, it's an incredible investment when you think about it, that you can do something with your finance or your resources or your time or your energy. You can do something with it to somehow link you to eternal resources. Quite amazing when you think about it. And so it says, so the person that is giving, somehow their world is getting larger and larger. Something's happening, and it's like their spirit is just bigger than their circumstances, that they're living a bigger life than is possible. But the stingy, their world gets smaller and smaller. And so, very interesting. And so I guess what I want to talk about is the blessed giver. The blessed giver. What is it about this person? Now, hope is a very important part of the blessed giver. And so, or trusting in God. Now, there are people that sadly in life, they think that everything should go all right for them. A lot of Christians are like that. Just because they believe in God, there should be nothing that goes wrong and everything should be right. In fact, when something goes wrong, their little fist goes up and they say, hey, God, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? But we need to understand we live in a broken world. Okay, we're broken people. Do you know churches are broken people being led by broken leaders? And once you get that, and I'm not saying bad leaders, I'm just saying once you get away from this, oh, everything's got to be perfect or whatever, let's get real. You know, we need to realize that, you know, we're broken people living in a broken world, and we need God to help us through this and bring healing and breakthrough. And so there are people that think that everything should go all right for them. I now believe in Jesus. You know, he's got to fix every one of my problems. And it's like, whoa, have you missed all the scripture that says, be ready when persecution comes and have joy in your trials, you know? And it's like, oh no, they're the bits I don't read. You know, like you on Facebook, there are bits that you don't want to read. And no, I'm not going to read that. Well, we need God to compel you to read some of those, you know, bad verses that say, hey, get ready for persecution, it's coming. And we've got to go, God, it's okay because you're bigger than this. And it's living a bigger life. And so hope is something that undergirds, I think, the generous or the blessed giver. Hope, what is hope? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not wishful thinking. It's not, I hope. It's not that. It's not blind optimism. You know, where you've got to, you know, I'm optimistic about everything. That's not hope. Hope is not having a big dream and one day this will happen. That's not hope. Hope is something that is established on something very concrete and real. It's not wishy-washy. And so the Bible tells us that hope is a confident expectation that's based on something solid. Okay? It says in Hebrews 11:1, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. So if we want to have faith, it's not this type of faith. It's like, hold on a second. I see the circumstances around me, but there's something in me, and it's God, that's telling me to have faith in this situation because something I can't see yet is going to come and be what I need. You know, like, so hope is based on something real. Hope is something that God wants you to have before the circumstances change. Okay, so when you win the $120 million lottery, sorry, you didn't, because we know one was in Coffs Harbour, I think, and one was in Western Australia, so it wasn't you. And so you don't go, oh, now that my circumstances are different, I can have hope. No. Hope is when it's darkest before the dawn, there's something that's sustaining you and you're going, I know the God that I believe. And I know that he sees me and sees my situation. And so there's a relaxing, even in the darkness, because you know the dawn is on its way. And that's the type of hope that we're talking about. And so Bible hope is something that gives you strength when the circumstances say you shouldn't have it. Bible hope is anchored to something that you cannot see. And it says in Hebrews 6:19, we have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. Now, anchors go under the water. You throw it over the boat, and you're hoping it links to something that you can't see. And that what it links to is going to hold the boat in place. And so, if you want to have hope in the things of God, you've got to learn how to embrace the unseen. It says in 2 Corinthians 4:17-18, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. And listen to this. So fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. I mean, how do you fix your eyes on something you can't see? But it's trying to show us that, hey, don't look in the natural at things that you can see. Look with spiritual eyes on those things that are unseen. And fix your eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Amen. And so where does this hope come from? Well, firstly, it comes from God. Okay, Psalm 62:5 says, "Find rest, O my soul, in God alone. My hope comes from him." And true hope is also when we believe his word and his promises. His promises are there to encourage us, to let us believe that if we seek first the kingdom of God, that these things will be added. We believe it, we trust it. So it's important that we trust his word. Psalm 119 verse 81, it says this, "My soul faints with longing for your salvation." Now this is someone that's going, I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm fainting with longing. I'm waiting for my salvation. I'm waiting for things to change, and I'm almost out of strength. That's what that's saying. My soul faints with longing for your salvation, but I have put my hope in your word. So there's something like, I want to see this salvation. I don't know how much longer I can hold on, but I trust your word. I'm going to get through this. That's what this person's saying. So hope's not a magic wand, a dream that things will be different. It is gutsy, life-giving, circumstance-enduring reality that can change our perception and change the way we see things around us. Now, hope doesn't promise that it will change your circumstance, but hope says that you will endure your circumstance. And sometimes people are waiting for things to stop being the problem. Whereas God goes, no, I'll be with you through the problem. And sometimes. Remember Paul? He prayed for that thorn in the flesh. He said, take it away, take it away, take it away, 3 times. And God says, no. You're going to find out that in your weakness, you're going to discover my true power. I'm going to get you to do everything you need to do as though you don't have this weakness. But I'm not taking it away. I'm going to show you my power. And then he goes, oh, and I'm going to boast in my weakness because then God's power is resting on me. Look, if we want to live in a life that is under his power, that might be understanding our weakness, our shortcoming. It's stepping out in spite of it. It's like Peter stepping out of a boat knowing that water can't hold you up. Yeah, that's right. It's stepping out knowing that, God, if you don't do something, I'm going to sink. You know, you sang a song about water walking, you know, and so you know, there's a hope that you go, well, Jesus, if it's you, Peter said, talk to me and get me to come out. Call me to come out. So he wasn't presumptuous. He didn't say, hey, Jesus, hey, wait there, I'm coming. He said, no, if it's you, command me to come. So it was actually Peter's idea to walk on water. It wasn't Jesus going, hey, Peter, come on out. He had an idea and he said, well, Jesus, if you're doing it, is there anything to stop me from doing it? And so he said, if it's you, Jesus, if it's you, command me to come out. And Jesus said, come. Isn't it amazing? He had this belief or this concept, and Jesus says, oh, I like that type of thinking. Come on out. And so he did. He stepped down and started walking until he started looking around. Doubt came, and we know that Jesus had to pick him up and go, you have a little faith, you know, come on, get back in the boat. But the thing is, there's something inside of a blessed giver that goes, God, I believe I can be part of this answer. Is there something that I should do? And you don't be foolish. You submit it to him and see what he says. I can be part of this. And hear the Lord go, come. Yeah, you can be. And it's like, well, I don't know how this bill's going to get paid, but I really believe this is what you're wanting me to do. Come. Come on. You'll see something amazing. See, the world is getting larger and larger. They're going, oh my goodness, this is an amazing way to live life. And so sometimes it's good to go to the original Hebrew meaning of particular words to try and understand. And so I did that with the word hope. You know what I found? It says a cord, something that is attached. And I thought, that doesn't help me very much. I want to know about hope, and it's a cord, something that's attached. And I couldn't get it until I thought about that verse that we just read, about the anchor that is firm and secure. Imagine if you are a person, the captain of the boat, and you know what this boat needs? It needs an anchor. And you buy an anchor, but you don't tie it to the boat. And you know, hey, when things get bad, throw this over the side. And so this captain who never attached the anchor to the boat goes, oh, storms, oh, come on guys, I've seen this before, throw the anchor over. And they throw the anchor over and it just sinks, and they're still in the storm. See, hope is the cord that is attached to that anchor. It's like, I am going to link me and this boat that I'm in, I'm going to link it to something unseen. And so it's the cord or that which is attached. And we've got to make sure, possibly some of you have been in church a long time. Some of you might be new. I don't know. But the thing is, there's a difference between a belief in God and believing God. You know, there's a lot of people that go, oh yeah, I believe there's a God. That's like an anchor on your boat that's not attached. But you've got to believe God. You've got to trust him. You've got to have that relationship with him that when things get tough, you know that when you throw that anchor over, it's attached to God. It's attached to the unseen. It's going to help. It's not just, the Bible even says the devils believe that there's a God. It's not helping them much. And so I just thought it was really interesting that we've got to make sure that we attach our hope to God. And we use this cord. A lot of non-believers attach their cord to lesser things. And even sadly, some Christians attach their cord of hope to lesser things, not to God. They believe that if they've got more money, that they'll be okay. They believe that their family and friends will help them out when they have a need. Or they think that their career will get them out of a situation, or whatever. They're attaching their cord to lesser things. And I want to now touch a little bit on money. I told you at the beginning I was going to talk about money. Again, relax. There's no offering happening at the end of this service, is there? Or is there? Okay, well, okay. All right, well, I don't know that there's an offering, so you can relax. You don't have to grip onto your wallet for this part of the sermon. You know, there was someone, you know our Australian coins have got the picture of the Queen on the Queen. Some people hold their money so tight that the Queen has a tear going down her eye. You know, they're holding on to it so tight. Now, so just relax and listen. Okay, God talks a lot about money. Here's some statistics. 16 out of 38 of Jesus' parables deal with money and possessions. 25% of the words of Jesus in the New Testament deal with biblical stewardship. 25%. Imagine if you came to a church and for a quarter of the sermons they talked about money. You'd be offended. Well, lucky Jesus is not your pastor. Okay, 1 out of 10 verses in the Gospels deal with money. And more than 2,000 verses in the Bible are about tithing, money and possessions, which is twice as many as faith and prayer verses put together. Wow. And it's like, why does God talk so much about money? He's not fundraising. He's not trying to pay bills. He owns everything, and yet he's talking about money so much. He's not trying to complete projects and go, please, please help me. So there's got to be a purpose for why he talks so much about it. And he's trying to communicate that he wants you to be blessed in every area of your life. And he's trying to warn you that maybe an inflated, bank balance isn't the way to find true blessing. And so there's something that he's wanting to communicate so that you can have the best life ever. So he's not talking about money for himself. He's actually talking about money for your sake. Amen. And so what's some of the things that we can look at? Now, money and faith are linked. Now, God does not have a problem with you having money. But, absolutely. But he is greatly concerned about the effect that money might have on you. And so there's a direct link between the way we handle our money and our faith. Now, when it comes to money, we will either worship wealth or we will worship with our wealth. Okay, you're going to be in one of these two camps. You're going to worship money or you worship with your money. Now, money's like an X-ray machine. It's going to reveal what's really going on inside of you. All you have to do is look at how you spend your money. And you will know where you're at when it comes to spiritual maturity or trusting in God or anything like that. Just have a look at where all your money has gone. And that's like an X-ray saying, that's what you believe. That's your faith. That's your level of Christianity. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull up one of you and we're going to pull up your bank accounts and we're going to have a look. No, we won't do that. It was actually Martin Luther, and he was that monk, that priest that got converted and salvation by faith alone. He actually said you've got to be converted in 3 ways. You've got to be converted in your heart, you've got to be converted in your mind, and you need your wallet and purse to get converted as well. Okay, he said those 3 areas are really important if you truly want to live a life for God. Your heart, your mind, and your wallet have to be all converted and saved. And so let's again, God's not opposed to people being wealthy. In fact, many of the Old Testament patriarchs were very wealthy people. Now, I'm not here to preach prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel and the poverty gospel are both extremes that you should avoid. But I'm just saying God doesn't have a problem with money. In fact, in 1 Chronicles 29:12, it says, both riches and honor come from you, and you reign over all. Riches and honor. It says in Deuteronomy 8:18, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. So God's not opposed to money. And so, but what we've got to understand is there's a problem when we separate our money from God. And that's when a problem comes. They say that money is amoral. That means it doesn't have morals. It's not good or bad. It doesn't do good things or commit crimes. Money doesn't do any of that. Money is, they say, like a fire. When you keep it in, fire in a fireplace, it's good. It warms the house. You take that fire out of the fireplace, put it in the middle of the living room, it causes great damage. Money's not the problem. It's how we handle it. And when we separate our money from God, that's when things can go very, very bad. Money can only do what you tell it to do, whether good or bad. It doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. It's love of money is the root of all evil. And so God's concerned that when people exhibit an unhealthy pursuit of money, and that can be whether you're poor or rich. You can be a poor person with an unhealthy desire for money or rich. And it's this unhealthy pursuit that can separate you from God. That's why he talks so much about money, because it's going to be the one area that is really tricky to handle. And so he talks about it, not fundraising, but going, I want you to be blessed. But you've really got to get your head around this. You've got to get control of money, or money will have control of you. And so, people who trust the money path as being what they put their hope in, that's the greatest deception that is ensnaring people. It says in 1 Timothy 6:17, instruct those who are rich in this present world not to be conceited or to fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God who richly supplies us with all things to enjoy. And so it's very, very important that we handle money. So that's the end of the money bit, okay? No offering being taken. Relax. It's okay. Did you receive it? Was it all right? Okay. Now, I'm coming to a close. Hebrews 10:23 says this, let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise. Generous people, when things are going tough, they strongly hold on to what they still believe. And even when they've got very little, they can walk through that concentration camp and give their last piece of bread and trusting that God somehow, you'll give me the strength for till my next meal, or you'll be there for me. And so, it's holding tight, especially when things are tough. And that's where you're going to really learn about whether you're generous or not. Not when you got stuff, but when you don't have it. And he just sees, what do you really believe I can do? What are you really trusting me with? And so it's when we don't have. And so never let go of this cord of hope. Don't give up, don't lose heart, and don't give in. And the believer, the blessed giver, believes one verse very, very, very much. And that's Romans 18:28. And it says, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Now we need to just, as we bring this to a close, we need to understand what it's saying. It's not saying that all things that happen to you are good. There are terrible things that happen to you. They're not good. So this isn't saying all things are good. It's saying, no. God can take even the bad things that happen and he can work it for good. Okay? So it doesn't mean all things are good. And it says also that he will transform it into something that will benefit you. Now, he doesn't promise that all things will work together for good for everyone. That's not what the verse is saying. It's not even saying for everyone that attends church, all things will work together for good. No, it's not saying that. It's saying that if you're called according to his purpose, if you have meaning and you find your purpose in God, and you find yourself in a difficult situation, you go, God, how did I get here? How am I going to get out of this? God will work for your good because you love God and you're living with purpose and meaning. Now, I'm going to just end with a testimony, and I won't go into it, but 3 years ago, I moved into the new place where I'm living. Now, I'm very happy where I live. And it's actually a very unique place where it's 2 houses, not a granny flat, it's 2 houses on one property. And in the front house, I have my daughter and son-in-law and 3 grandchildren, which means I've got 3 grandchildren just 10 metres away, 20 metres away. But we were all living together in a 3-bedroom flat. They sort of had to get out of a place, Jason and Katie. They're the new senior pastors of our church. And so we said, 6 months, come and stay with us. 3 years later, they were still there. And at that point, we thought, hey, we really get on really well. And we love our grandchildren being near us. And we said, why don't we look for a bigger place? Well, we found out that the bank, we had to find like 2 separate places. Anyway, we found this property and we said, this is God's provision. I cannot believe it. It's like the person built it for us. And we had God speaking to our heart going, this is it. This is it. This is for you. And we're going, God, this is more than we deserve. This is wonderful. And it's in Dulwich Hill and it's just 2 kilometres from my church. And it's brilliant. Well, so we put an offer on the place, and we put, when the real estate say offers starting from, that was our offer. And we know real estate's lie. That's just to get you in. They believe they're going to get more. And we were honest. We just said, hey, you see that figure that you put on your brochure? That's all we've got. And they said, oh, well, have a look anyway. No one else took it up. No one else saw what we saw. And so, we got the contract. And guess what? At that point, everything went wrong. We thought we better go sell our apartment that we were living in, and Jason and Katie, they had an investment apartment. They sold theirs quickly. Ours wouldn't sell. And it was at the time that property prices were plummeting, and whatever price we put it at was like last week's price. It's got to be lower. It's got to be lower. And we kept losing money on our place. And we're going, God, what's going on? And so, to cut a long story short, the bank wouldn't lend us any money for our bridging finance. And it looked like the sort of, when you go to a solicitor and get, side money. 24 hours before we had to give the money, they contacted us and they said, sorry, we can't give you the money. And it's like, I've got 24 hours to pay this bill or we lose everything. And then I thought at that point, I've lost it all. I'm now bankrupt, and that was a scary time. And then an hour later, we were contacted again and they said, oh, we can give you the money. Can I tell you that I had the check handed over to the person that needed the money 90 minutes before bankruptcy proceedings? Like if I didn't get the money by this particular time, bankruptcy proceedings would have started against me. Can I tell you, that's really scary? That's really scary. But we believed that God said, this is yours. And He can take you through a horrible journey, but we held on to that hope. And at one point, it looked hopeless. 24 hours before, when they said they can't lend us the money, it's over. It's over. And I remember just crying out to God, saying, God, help. No, I cried out what Peter cried. I was in my car and I just cried out, God, save me. Save me. That's all I could pray. And an hour later they said, oh no, we found a way that we can still do this. I never want to go through that ever again. I'm never selling ever again. But the thing is, I'm now in a place that I'm more blessed than I would have been. And so God sometimes takes you through tough things, but are you still going to be that person that you should be? When we went to the solicitors, you know what they called us? They called us the happy family. Because they knew what we were going through, and they said, you never were without a smile. You never were without, like they kept advising us, don't give this money over. And we said, we have no choice. And it's like, Holden, Texas poker, we're all in. And we were either going to lose everything or win. We were just trusting God. We said to them, I believe that God's going to give us this house. So I appreciate the advice you're giving, but we're all in. Our solicitors, when it finally happened, they cried. I had a girl solicitor that they cried because they knew what we were going through. They knew how difficult it was, and it was a wonderful testimony for God. And now, that place is worth $1 million more than it was when we bought it. So I'm telling you now. So I went from being almost bankrupt to God, you are just over blessing. We've determined, my wife and I, to live a life of being a blessed giver. And we've found that when we needed help, He was there. A little bit slow, but He was there. I don't like His timing, and He knows that. And sometimes we're not very good friends. It's like, come on, seriously, do something now. But He was always there. So be a blessed giver. Look, a lot of you guys are young. Just set up your finances and your giving of resources. Set it up early and spend the rest of your life as a generous person whose world gets bigger and bigger and bigger. God bless you.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor Barry. Wow. Guys, where's your cord attached to? Is it attached to your good looks? Or is it attached to your car? Some people have really nice cars here. Or is it attached to, where are you attaching it to, hey? Wow, that's really good. And money is like an X-ray machine. Can I tell you something, actually? This happened this week. So love your message.